Hello my friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with the very much anticipated Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous Stamptember exclusive set. Everyone's been chomping at the bit for this. As of doing this voiceover, when this video goes live, Tim will be also live on his channel, revealing the set and all the makes, including hopefully one of these cards that I sent to him to show everyone. So the set's fabulous, and like all the other Stamptember collab sets, these are one and done, limited edition, will not be restocked. So this one is at the stamp set, and there's also a couple little moon masks that come with the set. So I have some Distress heavy stock, white heavy stock, that I've cut to, I think right now it's about 5x7. I will trim it down later. And I used the solid mask and I put just a bit of repositionable adhesive on the back of it. And I stuck it directly to the heavy stock. And then I got my heat tool ready. And I have a bunch of Distress spray stains as well as a couple of the holiday mica spray stains. The mica spray stains are also limited edition. That was announced many times. The Halloween sets sold out. I've shown those in many videos. Oh, love them. The holiday sets, Simon still has some left for on reserve because they come in stock, I think, later this week. And same thing. These are the mica spray stains are seasonal from what I understand. So I'm hoping they come back next year because they're amazing. So, and I'm going to move this when you see the second background, like more on camera. I didn't realize I was totally off the screen because I'm just like, Anyway, I just sprayed a bunch of sprays. I had a rough idea in my head, like I had laid the stamps out before I started this, of what I wanted to do. So I sprayed the Distress spray stains, and I'll link to the specific colors I used. Sprayed those, added some of the mica spray stains, which were the Snow Flurries and the Tree Lot. The Snow Flurries is like that brighter blue, and then the Tree Lots are beautiful deep green. And just sprayed. And then I removed the mask and I removed the little adhesive that was left over just using an adhesive eraser. And then I sprayed it with water, and that's what got everything to move and create that like just dusky, I don't even know what you call it. Like I've done like galaxy backgrounds this way. I've done spooky Halloween backgrounds this way. But this is the first time I've ever done one, and it's like kind of more supposed to be like a winter Christmas sky sort of a thing. And like always, this looks like a hot bloody mess. But it comes together. It's just, it was fun. And I obviously was not at all concerned about any of the sprays like seeping underneath that little mask. That's fine because I spray it with water and I want those colors to kind of move because it just gives it that smoky, dusky look to the sky. I love it. I love it. So I was using my heat tool to kind of speed up the process. And here again, I'm just using my little adhesive eraser. I'll have a link to it, just like all the other supplies. And then I spray it with water, and that's what gets everything to move, move into that masked area where the moon will be. And, the water effects and the splatter and just, and like I did 2 of these backgrounds and I love how they look different. I used the exact same colors, basically the exact same technique, but they turn out different. And that's also what's so fun about it. So when I'm doing things like this and using sprays and water and all the things, of course the cardstock's going to warp a bit. There's multiple ways to flatten it out. You can run it through your die cut machine without any wafer dies, just, a couple pieces of copy paper to protect it. You can pile it under some heavy objects and let it, sit. That'll flatten it out too. I never have time for that. So I just use my MINC machine. A laminator would work too. And I just sandwich my background between a scrap piece of cardstock, a scrap piece of copy paper, and some parchment paper, and run it through. And then the heat and the pressure of the machine just flattens this out. Sometimes I don't care and it isn't important because it's like, oh, I'm just going to adhere this to my, card, yada, yada, that'll be fine. But I plan on doing stamping on top of this, so I wanted to get it as flat as possible to make things better. And then I'm also sitting and playing with it. I'm like, ooh, shiny pretty. Anyway, so for me, this is like I use my MINC more for flattening my backgrounds than for anything else, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's just my life. So anyway, flatten these backgrounds out really good. And then I am going to stamp on them. So I've got, but first But first, I'm going to use the actual little moon stencil. So I'm just going to hold it in place, and I'm using some old paper distress ink and just blending over it. And I love it. It just gives it a little, like, it makes it a little more obvious that it's the moon, you know? And again, I love how both of these backgrounds, like, similar yet different. And as always, if I had had more, you know, more time in the day sort of a thing and not doing daily and multiple daily videos for Stamptember, I think I would have made a ton of these cards because I would have made tons of backgrounds. I was having so much fun. So, anywho, I'm going to pull out my Misty. And then I forgot, but then I remembered to take the foam insert out of my Misty because these are red rubber cling back stamps, just like the majority of Tim's stamps are through Stampers Anonymous. And before I did anything, I used my anti-static powder tool in the background and I poured embossing powder over it just to make sure that I'm not going to have a hot mess and have it clinging to everything. You know, I was pretty sure my backgrounds are dry, plus running them through the MINC machine with all that heat also helps dry, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. So everything was good to go. So I lined up the tree image from the set first, and I'm going to ink that up with clear embossing ink, and I'm going to stamp it a couple times onto this background just to make sure I get all of the detail. And then once I've got that stamped, I'm also going to switch out my heat tool to my actual embossing tool. The Ranger heat tool can heat emboss. It's not meant for that because it blows like a wider surface and not blowing as much air. You can heat emboss with it, but it's just, I'm not a fan of it for heat embossing. I just like it for drawing backgrounds. So I've got my heat tool, coated that image with detail white embossing powder, and melted it with my heat tool. And this is where things just start coming together, like why I had the green sprays along the bottom of the card. Like I'd used the Rustic Wilderness Distress Spray Stain, and then one of the mica spray stains, that Tree Lot one. And that combo of those two together, and then the trees white heat embossed on top of it, I was like, yes. If you can't tell, I really enjoyed using this stamp set, and I really enjoyed making these cards. I made a hot mess. If you guys could have seen my office after I was done making these, I had there was stuff everywhere. It was crazy, but also really fun. So I did that to both backgrounds. White heat embossed those trees. Love it. And then with the Santa and sleigh and reindeer image, this was a bit of an experiment. I wasn't sure where this was going to go. But I used my anti-static powder tool just in case, because I was pretty sure I would need to heat emboss it. But I wanted to see if I could just stamp it in black. So I stamped it. I'm going to ink it up and stamp it a second time. And it's not what I wanted. It's not as... It wasn't as intense as I wanted, I guess, is kind of what I was going for. Because like stamping it on such a obviously busy background, and the shimmer from the mica sprays and stuff, it just kind of seemed lost. So I pulled out black embossing powder, which I rarely use. Black embossing powder is just not usually fun to create with because it likes to get everywhere. It really does, you know. However, it has its place, and with something like this, it was perfect because it just brought out the detail of this image. Like if I'd clear heat embossed it on top of the black stamping, it would have just looked pretty much like it did with the black stamping, if that makes sense. So adding the black embossing powder really brought it out, and just, you know, it just worked. So I did that, and then I had to use the swirly star snow image in this. I love it. I don't know what it is. I just love this stamp. So I stamped that in between the trees and the sleigh. And I'm going to use Ranger's Liquid Platinum Embossing Powder. I think this is I usually will stick to like one embossing powder for my cards. Maybe two, like, you know, a white and a clear. This time I used 3 and everything worked. So the Liquid Platinum is much more subtle, but again, that's kind of what I was going for. I didn't want it to be super, super busy. If you wanted something to stand out more, you could use gold or silver. Silver would look really gorgeous with these colors, but the Liquid Platinum just works. And when it catches the light and you can just see all the little dots and stars and flurries, it's just fabulous. So coated that with the Liquid Platinum embossing powder, melted that with my heat tool, and of course, I'm going to add more splatter. At first I was like, it's, you know, it's winter and Christmas and Santa and his sleigh and it's snowing. But then I'm like, wait, there's no clouds in the sky, so there wouldn't really be snow. But then I'm like, nope, there would be snow because the sleigh would, like, you know, kick up a bunch of snow as it's pulling away. The weird scenarios that go through my head when I'm creating. It's splatter. And it's going. So regardless of what people want to think, you know, there's snow. There's snow on the ground. There's snow on the trees, and snow's just swirling. It just is. So splattered both of these backgrounds with white paint, just as is tradition. And once I got them splattered, I'm going to set those aside and let them completely dry. And then off camera, I am going to trim these down smaller than what they are. That's why the trees are stamped a little higher. Like, I ended up trimming this down to, I'm not even sure what. It ended up being smaller than 5x7 anyway. So I also stamped one of the sentiments from the set onto just a random scrap of green cardstock. And then to get it to kind of go more with the shade of green of the sprayed backgrounds, I took some Rustic Wilderness Distress ink and just lightly blended this over top. I didn't go for a smooth, perfect blend because, again, like, the background's all splattery and, you know, all the different colors going on. But I just wanted to pull in more of that Rustic Wilderness green. So blended that and then wiped off the ink that's sitting on top of the heat embossing. So it, you know, makes the heat embossing and the words more legible. And then my card bases were 10 inches by 7 inches of white cardstock that I score at 5 inches and managed to get splotches of ink from my fingers on. But I went with it because I was like, that's going to get covered up by the card front, so no one's going to see it. So yeah, that's, but again, like I said, I was making just such a mess. When I'm doing, like, really heavy, like, sprays and those sorts of things, I got to be careful with the white cardstock because, yeah, I get them all over my hands and then I get fingerprints and splotches all over everything else. My face, my clothes, you know. So anyway, I made my card bases and then I folded the card base inside out and put it in my MISTI because, of course, I got to put something on the inside. And I'm going to stamp these trees with Rustic Wilderness Distress Oxide ink. And they stamp like a dream. And like, as I was doing this, I was like, oh, you could do really pretty, clean and simple cards by just stamping these images with, like, Oxide inks, pigment inks, etc. Like, yeah. So many ideas. But stamp the trees. And then I'm going to stamp that little swirly image because, again, just fabulous. So I lined that up on the inside of the card. And I'm going to stamp that with iced spruce Oxide ink. So stamp that and then put the second card base in there and same thing. I love it. So stamp that, and then once I've got that stamped on the second card base, I'm going to take another one of the sentiments from the set and I'm just going to kind of line it up to the top of the swirl. I don't know what else to call it. And I'm going to ink that up with black ink. And just, again, the sentiment, like, Merry Christmas to all and to all good night. I was just like, yes. I just love it. So ink that up with the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and stamp that on the inside of the first card base. And then I'll stamp the second card base with that. And then, again, off camera, I had cut down, I thought it was black cardstock, but then as I'm editing this, no, it was purple. Some really dark purple cardstock from my stash. I've had it for years. Black would look really good too, you know, so again, whatever floats your boat. But cut that to slightly larger than my trimmed down background and adhere those together. And then I'm going to coat the back of this with Simon's Big Mama foam tape to give it that little bit of dimension that I love. So I'll coat the back of this with that foam tape, peel off the backing, and then I can adhere that to my card base and cover up that little smudge there that I got on the white card base with, I'm pretty sure it was the Seedless Preserves Distress Spray that I got on my fingers and then transferred to the card. But it's covered up now, so we're good. And then I tore the edge of the sentiment strip that I had on that green cardstock just to expose that lighter shade of green. I kind of liked how that looked. It just worked. And then pop that into place. And then as a final little bit of embellishment, some Studio Caudia iridescent star embellishments. I keep saying this. I need to get more of them They keep selling out before I can get more. I'm running out. I'm nearly out, and it's starting to aggravate me because these go perfectly with everything, and they had to go on this background. They were just too perfect not to. So I'm going to adhere a few of them in place with dabs of craft tacky glue. And then once those are adhered to my card bases, these cards are complete. I'm going to try and show with my flashlight just the shimmer and sparklies backgrounds. It's hard to show on camera. Like, you kind of see it, but oh man, in real life, those mica spray stains are just, again, mwah, chef's kiss. Kind of do that in every video now, but I can't help myself. But yeah, these cards were a lot of fun to make. And they end up, yeah, the finished size was 5x7, which I don't normally do the larger 5x7 size, but with these images, and it just gave me more space for like the moon and the images and all the sprays and the background, you know. So like I said in the beginning of the video, this is a limited edition set. There are plenty though of the Stampers Anonymous, like Tim Holtz stamp sets. There's so many amazing sets. He just had a Christmas release on Saturday. So there's new holiday sets, plus like last year's holiday sets. Like there's tons. There's so many to choose from, and they're all amazing. So anywho, like always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I will have a link to all the supplies I used. There'll be picture links in the blog post if you want to check that out. It's all in the description box directly below the video. Thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting, all of it. I very much appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!